So I'm going to share the starting point of what I do for designing privacy frameworks and data security protocols and our internal controls for companies, which I've used from Amazon to NASDAQ listed companies. This is the starting point where I go in and this is what I do. Right, so it doesn't operate in silos. If you want cybersecurity, if you want data protection, everyone has to work together and be open to trainings, to workshops, so that everyone is trained in the protocols and why they exist in the first place, right? So the first thing is if you already have systems but they're not adequately protecting all the users, to actually have a foundation and segregation of duties. So we have the core need here is for identity access management with role-based access and automated conflict prevention, right? So the first thing is to have a centralized IAM tool, whether it is Okta or SailPoint, something like that, that manages all the users to ensure that retrieval access is done according to what your level is, right? So for instance, like if you need to requisition a particular order over 50K, and that needs to be done with the Department of Finance head on board to sign that off, it cannot be done by a junior staff person. Similarly, like if someone needs data from the legal department to ensure that the head of legal is involved, if it is a cross-functional request, to know that everyone is on board with what data is being provided and to redact certain information as required. So those are some of the internal controls. And for this, we need procedures in place as checkpoints, right? So even access what kind of data, we need to classify it, right? And we're going to go into that later. But also to define the role-based access control matrices, especially for financial applications, right? As we discussed, to like get money approved for a certain order for a certain vendor, right? Above a certain threshold has to be approved by higher management. And what that threshold is predetermined and designed into the system. So automated SOD conflict rules within the enterprise risk management system, example SAP, Oracle, to technically prevent the assignment of incompatible roles. Example, vendor, creator, payment approver cannot be the same person. And if they are, certain threshold amounts are predetermined to ensure that there is not fraud, financial risk is minimized, right? The second is the privileged access management system. And to develop a solution for that, example, CyberArk or Beyond Trust, right? And to eliminate all standing privileged access, mandate the checkout from the PAM vault with multi-factor authentication, of course, and business justification. Also to ensure session recording and keystroke logging for all privileged access to financial applications, ERP, and general ledger, right? And then the third is to classify the data and access management. So the solution is to classify all organizational data and enforce access directly on a documented need-to-know basis. So the first step here would be a data discovery and classification project to tag all data as confidential, public, restricted, and then also to map the data flows for critical financial information. Number three, the third part of data classification would be to apply attribute-based access control policies within IAM to PAM tools to dynamically restrict access to restricted/financial data based on the user role, the department, and explicit authorization, right? So the fourth thing is automated change management. So formalize these changes with mandatory documentation, testing, and separation of duties between developers and approvers, and integrate the exact technical controls that need to happen. Integrated change management tool like Jira, ServiceNow with the development pipeline. And enforce a workflow where all changes to financial systems require ticket documented text evidence, and approval by a separate authority. Implement automated deployment gates that block promotions to production without a completed and approved change ticket. So the last thing is to have continuous monitoring and audit. So configure the identity access management tool to run quarterly automated access certification campaigns and to deploy SIEM monitoring tools to generate real-time alerts for unauthorized change attempts in financial code repositories, privilege escalations, and triggered SOD violations. And also to schedule and document regular internal audits of these ITGCs to ensure ongoing effectiveness. So that is the standard base point with which I start the analysis and then tailor it to the specific requirements of the company that requires it and go from there. This is that Global Tech Attorney Girl. I specialize in building infrastructure and products that enable companies to scale. And that's it for this one. I'll see you soon.